Ciao, and welcome to the Excellent News Delivery podcast, delivering the most excellent news directly to you. I'm your host, Sam, and today I have Sahithya with me. If you want to say hello.
Hi! You got my name right. That's mad.
We did have a little practice session where I had to actually make sure I said your name right because I butchered words horribly. I think it's the guy who played, it was in the Social Network film, Mark Zuckerberg, the actual guy they based the film off, couldn't say his last name.
Did you just say Zuckerberg?
Oh, see, this is why we don't say these names, because words I just butcher, you could give me the easiest word in the world, a word in the world, and I'll butcher it to all other things. But anyway, talking sort of about less pronunciation, but more what we've sort of been up to. So this show, we tend to focus on the sort of creative world and what people are doing creatively, but I kind of want to harken back a little bit here and throw us back to like last summer, where we actually both ended up working out in America on a summer camp, which was kind of this like different experience. Like, I don't know how to put it into words and just how it is, but it's so different. Like, if you live somewhere like in the UK, it is such a different world over there. Like,
oh yeah, sure.
So like we were both working as summer counselors, and it's like, I don't know if you've ever been to like an English Scout camp, but it is so different to that. And I think especially like when you're working as a counselor, I don't want to be cliche and say you get like a little family, but you do get like this intimate group of other counselors who you have to work with, and you really do sort of like have that sort of drawn in connection together. So like, because I was saying, like, how long were we out there for? Like 2 months or so?
Yeah, we're working for 2 months, because this is like basically a way. This is just how like kids in America grow up, is going through camp, whereas it's not much of a thing over here. They just like do your GCSEs, do your A levels, and then leave.
Yeah, of course. But like the sheer size of like the campsite we're working on, it's like however many acres of like this massive land, and it's such a different thing, because even like the English Scouts, from like my own experiences, it was a fairly like just smaller sort of campsite you'd stay on for like a week, where this is like
Oh yeah.
as a counselors, we're out there for like 2 months, and like you were like doing some like high rope stuff, and like they do all these different things. Like they've got like this basic sports stuff, archery stuff, which to this day I'm amazed they ever let me near the archery stuff.
Surprisingly.
Like, honestly, I mean, I have appalling eyesight sometimes, and the fact that like they trusted me to go near enough a bow and arrow and like to say just aim it in the right direction. But I do generally think like the experience itself comes purely down to the people you work with. I think we were like really, I mean, I think we're personally really fortunate, because we work with such like a lovely little group of like people who just really just like, I mean, I don't think there was ever any sort of like drama or anything else. You hear about all of the sitcom stuff, when they over satirize and like make it out to be such a dramatic thing. But there was never like some massive drama.
No, it was very peaceful. It's very wholesome.
Yeah, like that's it. Like, it's wholesome. There's never like a time where people are like, like almost like in school, you have like someone hates someone, and then you're either this way or that way. Like at the camp, nothing like that. It's all just really pure like loveliness.
Yeah, everyone is just chill, and like everyone's there for the same reason, which is to give these campers a good experience. So that is a lot of fun. So everyone just has a good time in the end.
And it's like the variation of people we meet. I mean, we had like English, Americans, Scottish, and Australian people there.
Australians.
Polish.
Finnish.
Yes, that was it. Finnish. I was scared to say, because I was like, if I say the wrong thing, it's all gone wrong then. It's easy.
Mate.
But you get such a variation of people, and it's like, I don't think, again, just purely growing up in the UK, I've never had an experience like going to a baseball stadium before. Like, sort of, the sort of atmosphere it gives. It's like, it just gives you, it's like this whole sensation. I mean, I was talking to some of my friends who I'll go and see football stuff with, and the worst you'll get in England is you'll get people swearing and people like quite aggressive towards people supporting the other team. America, it's just this whole culture of like the baseball stuff, like the atmosphere. Like we had like that guy doing all like the sound effect stuff. Um,
Oh yeah,
but it's like,
we do the whole national anthem.
I mean, well,
We had like before.
we were doing like flag, what was it, flag
Yeah,
saluting every day and
yeah.
everything, which is again,
That's
for people
true.
in America listening, that's such a normal thing. But like in England, you wouldn't wake up every day and like stand by a flag raising up, would you? It's like such a different cultural thing, but it's such a cool thing to see.
Yeah, you'd think like we're so different to America, even though we think we might be quite similar, but there are so many cultural differences and practices.
Mm.
It's mad.
Well, it's like the fact we could go to like a Walmart and like quite literally everything was just in that one store as well. Like I don't know quite experienced like to say that like if you lived in this area, all you needed is one Walmart and you're sorted beyond that.
Yeah, you could buy like shampoo, but then you could buy like fishing rods as well. This is insane.
Well, it's like they had like a mini aquarium. They had like little fishes you could buy as well. You weren't limited. I mean, there was some intense stuff, like the fact like you could also like buy guns in the same place that you buy your groceries from. So that was quite again a cultural difference there, but it's something different. But it's like
That was a culture shock,
yeah,
definitely.
but and this is something I'm interested to pick on someone else's opinion for. So McDonald's in America, would you do you see like a difference in terms of the food itself? Like even if you order the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I had an issue because I was sort of vegetarian, and they had, besides hash browns, they didn't really offer anything that was veggie friendly. But everything was bigger, saltier. But I thought, I mean, it was fairly cheap, but as McDonald's is. But it's just everything is bigger in America, and that was certainly true with the food.
Oh, honest. I mean, I think I got to the point of just ordering, like the small portions. Like the fries were so salted though. That's what stands out to me. It's like
Yeah, it was super salty.
it was like, and again, this is probably what's more normal for them over there. That's probably like what they're used to. But I remember that standing out more than anything else. Like, obviously, they have different sort of food stuff over there in America, but like for them, like that's the sort of more the normal style to like have things a bit more salty. Um, but it's such an experience. I mean, like I can't recommend it enough. Like going up and signing up for something like doing it through the Camp America program, it's such an experience purely just for the sake of
Oh
you do
yeah.
meet such a variety of different people, and
Yeah,
it's
100%.
different. Like I don't think you could ever like find similar work, if you know what I mean. Like you can't, you could go work out in wherever and probably do like activity sort of stuff, but it's like no 2 days were the same. For like to say for 2 months,
Oh,
nothing was quite
definitely.
the same. Um,
Yeah.
it's such an experience, and it's like the fact is like you have animals who like roam these same like massive fields. Like we have deers that just randomly show up in the middle of like where some of the huts are and wherever else. Um, and then like
Yeah, it's definitely a very dynamic environment. Things, yeah, like you said, no 2 days the same. Everything's always constantly changing, and like you can't have a fixed plan and expect it to happen. You just sort of you adapt with it, but it's a lot of fun trying to figure out how it works.
oh yeah, I mean honestly, it was like probably one of the hottest summers we'd ever had, and I remember like one day it just poured it down rain. We're all
Yeah.
suddenly inside, having to shelter because it's such intense rain. And I remember being told like early on training, like there's a good chance, like because it goes downhill, some of it could flood. If you'd be told that, I'd be like, but this weather's great. It's like probably never rains here at all. It's such an experience, and it's like, but like, and I don't want to go saying that like I overpose on pictures, but I do like to get like some decent Instagram pictures. I'll admit to that, and I mean
Uh-huh.
I dragged you out a couple of times to just get
Yes.
some great pictures of myself. I'd like to say, but
Get it for the gram.
yeah, but it's like, but again, it's so visually beautiful. It's such an experience, and it's like you get to
Oh
do
yeah.
such cool work. You meet so many amazing people that you work with, and like be able to travel afterwards. It's such like an opportunity because, like in England, you wouldn't like, London's kind of our central point of like, if you want to go into travel to like the big sort of mainstream area, that's probably where you're headed. But then everyone in America is so different. I mean, I didn't travel as much as you did, but like you went like over to Philly, to New York, and like just to see some of the pictures that you got when you were traveling, it's so incredible.
It is. It's mad.
But
But the only problem is it's hard to get from one place to another because America's so big. It's just, it takes a while to move from one place to another. Whereas, like, you could drive for 8 hours and still be in the same state. Whereas, if I drove 8 hours from London, I could be in Scotland.
I know, and that's the crazy thing, though, isn't
It's
it?
wild. Yeah. Yeah, but it's really cool to see everything though, because you could go from a super rural, countryside fields and like one house to skyscrapers and cities and and rivers. Right.
It's such an experience, and like you say, like just the fact that like in England you could travel the same distance and like you do the whole of England, where in America you're probably barely scratching just one of the states.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, just purely for the sake of like the work and what you get to do and the sort of the actual chance to travel, I think I can't recommend enough. Like, especially like I was fortunate to do it in the middle of like my university degree, and it's like for a summer job, it's probably like the best one you can find out there, really. Like, as long as you like being, you want to be outside and you like the sort of hard working, early up in the morning, finishing late at night sort of atmosphere, it's fantastic. And we got to travel so many different places. And like, I'm a massive baseball fan, but seeing how big the stadiums are, it's mind blowing. Like, I say, I've been to a couple of football games, and like, you think those are massive, but then you compare them to any American sports stadium. Like, we were outside the Phillies football stadium at one point, and like Philadelphia Eagles, and like that thing actually like arced upwards, like beyond the actual like surface of like the circumference of the actual shape of the building. And it's like you've just got to think like the amount of people just that would go visit these things and how passionate they are. It's just in a different world. But anyway, moving on to our news stuff. So this is kind of where we talk a bit about some of the more positive stuff going on in the world. Some of this stuff is a bit more, I'll say, less popular stuff that I'm maybe more engaged with, and then it kind of just sort of overflows into I just want to talk about this because I'm very excited. Anyway, first up, we have the second season. I don't know if you ever saw Umbrella Academy on Netflix.
I haven't, no. But it's meant to be amazing.
It is amazing. It's a fantastic cast, and I think about a few weeks ago they announced that season 2's coming out date was next month, and then I kind of just want to talk about that a little bit because it is extremely close to being now out, and it's one of those series that I think left such a plot hole, well, obviously without reading too much, but it leaves in such like a cliffhanger that you just kind of want to know what's going to happen next. So to be waiting about for that it's just so like it's one of those things like there's a million series coming out for different things, but it's just that series where it's like they left it at such a point that as soon as like you forget about it and you're like, oh, it's in the back of your head like, oh yeah, that was a good series, but then when they announce it's coming out again, that's all you can think about. This one kind of like, our next thing kind of links a little bit into like our camp names a bit. So like when we worked in America, we had to use like fake names for safety measures and whatever else. So we all did like cartoon characters. So I ended up going with Crash, and I'm sure this is probably on your, since everything's been in lockdown, this has been your most exciting news you've heard so far. But they are making a Crash Bandicoot 4 that supposedly has been leaked out. They are, yeah. I mean, it's been ages. It's ages since the last time they did any game in the franchise. They did a remake of the original trilogy, but supposedly like they've had all like their sort of stuff leaked a little bit early, with a trailer coming out on the 22nd of this month. So when this podcast is up, it should hopefully the trailer should have already been out. But in terms of future talk, it's something we're still waiting to see now. But yeah, it's so supposedly the working title is Crash Bandicoot 4 About Time, which kind of links.
Okay.
Which I don't know. Well, I don't know if you ever played Crash 3, but they had like a lot of time travel in that game, and I think they kind of linked that in again.
Yeah.
They've linked that in again, and I think obviously the whole About Time kind of mocks the fact that I think it's been nearly 2 decades since the actual fourth game in the franchise has been made. Um,
That's a clever move. Fair enough.
but that's just, again, that's more the sort of like less mainstream news stuff I just want to talk about, just because I'm purely excited. I mean, like, especially like with lockdown stuff, people have so much free time, and then it's just me like I sit down and finally finish some games I've been meaning to do, or I'm just
Yes,
drawing
favorite
really,
games.
like. But everyone's got their own like little things to be focused on. So for me, it's just like the big like, oh well, there's like 40, 50 quid gone, um, just like that. I mean, as soon as they say
What?
announce, as soon as they say it's being released, I'll be like, oh well, I'll pre-order that. You can have my money. Um,
Exactly. Yeah, I'll make it up in the future. It'll be fine. It's worth it.
yes, but that's the before guilt, and then the after guilt when it comes out of your bank account. That settles in a bit. Like, I
Ooh.
ordered a movie I was really excited about, and like
Yeah, it doesn't look as pretty anymore.
it just hits you, and you're like, I spent that much money on that. That might have been a mistake. Um, but anyway, else stuff in the news. It's a little bit less centered around just the gaming film culture. There's a tiny forest are springing up all around Europe now, inspired by the Japanese sort of forests to help restore some of like nature itself. So what they've done is
Oh, okay.
they've taken these, like, I don't know if you've ever seen like a Japanese garden tour or anything like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
We're
they've
meant to have one at uni, but it's not a proper one.
universities tend to take a little bit longer with certain things, but like
Rip.
without making too many statements. But yeah, they sort of like regrowing those sort of like mini, Japanese gardens, these massive forests where they've kind of been like left to grow on their own, if you know what I mean, like not sort of to be
Yeah,
overwhelmed, but in theory it should
yeah,
help restore sort of nature stuff, and obviously in doing so, that gives so many more animals a place to live safely in these high grasses, and obviously with the nature itself gets a chance for like things like trees to grow, which is fantastic to see. Um, but then
mm.
to link us back to our American sort of topic, I don't know if you ever went to a Target
Mhm.
store, but that's one of their big shopping uh, companies. Um,
Oh
but
yeah.
the Target shopping store has made they had an increase in their pay rise for people still working because they were still considered key workers. Um,
Yeah,
but
I heard about that.
for the people who have stayed working, they've made the pay rise permanent. So they've set their hourly minimum wage to $15 with extra bonuses. And I think it's just like kind of a wholesome
Ah,
thing there. Like,
yeah. It's just a little things big companies can do, to be honest. To
yeah.
show that they care for their workers and treat them with respect.
Well, you think like there's so much with, especially with key workers that they have done. Like anyone in the medical profession, I've got
Yeah.
such a great respect for because they have time
Oh
and time
yeah.
again put themselves out there. But it's great to see like the shops have still remained open. These big corporations
Mhm.
haven't just overexposed for the money. They've said they've seen the people who have like dedicated and like still come in when it's not the best time to want to be working at all, and so many other people don't have to. And it's nice
Yeah.
to see that these like companies, like you
Yeah.
say, these big corporations doing something like extra for just for the everyday person,
Exactly. Yeah.
um, which is fantastic to see. And then back over in England, they have started building micro houses to tackle homelessness in Cambridge. So I took a look at some of the pictures, and
Really.
yeah, so they're like probably a little bit bigger than your average sort of shed. Um,
Yeah.
but I believe the idea is with them that hopefully what they're hoping to do is on by the dump in the shadow of the famous university. They're going to hopefully start building these houses. They've already made six currently,
Okay.
um, and the land actually belongs to a local church, but has been donated to sort of do this. Each of them are fitted with kitchens, living areas, bathrooms, separate bedrooms, washing machines, and people who need to stay there can just stay for as long as they want, or as long as they need to. Just
Oh, that's great.
well, again, you think talking about like what's happened recently, it's great to see, how you know obviously there's been certain jobs lost and everything else, and some certain companies have just kind of closed down. Um,
Yeah.
so it's fantastic to see, now these, again, people kind of just helping us get back to normality, and it's these small steps. So like to do something
Yeah.
like this,
Just reaching
sets
out
you.
your hand out, essentially.
Yes, totally. Like nothing's going to go back straight away normally, like just like that. But it's nice to see a
100%.
early step. Um, but
Yeah,
yes, that's kind of
certainly.
our new stuff there, and it's nice. It's just like I say, like a lot of this stuff is just purely, making these small changes, and especially stuff like the forest stuff. I think it's fascinating because
Yeah.
you've got to think, more for the long-term effect of what happens on the forest. Like initially, it doesn't make a great
That's the
deal
thing, yeah.
of a difference, but in 5 to 10 years' time, you've got to
It's
think,
just investing into a more,
yes,
yeah, like a
totally.
sustainable future, healthier future.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good thing. And then I think companies are kind of starting to go this way, and like the fact that companies are kind of hopefully starting to raise like better pay for people and help people out a bit. It's just building to something better. And I think, especially in this year, that's what we massively need. Is just a bit more of a positive step forward. It's like there's some negative stuff in the world, of course, but to see us like trying to move forward positively is the major sort of aim here.
Mm.
And anyway, moving on to our film quiz stuff. So I kind of explained the rules to you, but for anyone who's listening for the first time, our film quizzes, I have too much spare time to watch films, to be brutal. So
Yeah, not surprised me.
I go scouring the internet and I look for some films. I tend to do different genres, and I find like probably the worst or the most like blandest descriptions I can find for a film. I read out the film descriptions, and you've
Okay.
just got to give me the film's name. So I went for a bit of a different theme for you. I was trying to think, to be honest, like
Oh, okay.
what I thought would be like your perfect genre. Um,
Oh
and
dear.
I wasn't 100% sure, so I went for a bit more of a vague topic. I went for reboot film. So basically, any film, like an
Okay.
existing TV or film property that they've then gone like remade for a newer
Yeah.
audience. So I will be generous with your one. I will accept, if you give me the old or new title. I will
Okay.
accept either of them because some of them are, more vaguer properties. Some of them are like the well-known ones that have been remade. We have
I see. I see.
currently the first two shows. We had both contestants scoring 6 points, and then our last one we had Joe who got our highest of 9 points. So there's 10 questions here.
Oh no.
No, I mean, you can aim for the top. If you score a perfect 10, you take the title right here. If you score a 6, you're in,
I think that's a bit ambitious for us.
look.
We'll probably, we'll aim for like a 5.
5 solid. If you can aim for a 5, if you get into a 6, you're in the majority of the scoring. So we'll
Okay,
aim for that.
we'll go for majority.
All right, we'll give this a go then. Right, our
Okay.
first question. In 2028, Detroit, when Alex Murphy, a loving husband, father, and a good cop, is critically injured in the line of duty, the multinational Omnicorp sees their chance for a part man, part robot police officer. I can give you the hint that this was an 80s film that they then remade, I believe in 2016, I want to say, or 2015.
See, the whole half man, half machine thing makes me think Terminator. But
I, I can see your thought pattern with
this
Terminator.
is already going so bad. Okay, I already have to use a clue, I think.
I don't. To be honest, I could give you the actor's name, but I don't know if you'd recognize him. The film was met with bad
Okay.
repercussions. The original film did star Peter Weller, if you know him.
No idea.
I can also say, although I know you're not into a big gaming culture, he was recently added into Mortal Kombat as a guest character. If that's just going to like randomly spring a little memory up that you've just seen something scrolling through the news or something, and you've been like, oh, okay,
Oh
that's
yeah,
sick.
all my time spent gaming on Mortal Kombat. I
Well,
clearly get
yeah,
the
you never know.
reference.
You might see an innocent little news pass by. Right. Well, I'm gonna have to push you for an answer here.
Back to the Future.
It was RoboCop.
Oh, okay.
I like though
Yeah,
you weren't too far off. You kind of had you're in the right area. Terminator was a good step forwards. Um, and
I
I really.
appreciate the consolement.
I thought you were gonna go the right way. You said Terminator. I was like, oh, hang on, she might work it back here because you were like part man, part robot, and I was like, she might work it back a bit. But Back to the Future. It's a solid. Back to the Future is top 40 film though. That is my favorite film of all time. So I will happily say.
It's a good film. It is.
All right. This next one's a bit nicer, and I think you'll recognize this one. Following a ghost invasion of Manhattan, paranormal enthusiasts Erin and Abby and nuclear engineer Gillian and subway worker Patty band together to stop the otherworldly threat. So this is a big ghost film. It was a big film in the 80s again, and they got a reboot that wasn't received the best.
Is this Paranormal Activity?
It's Ghostbusters.
Oh my god! Oh yeah! Oh! I'm so stupid. Oh yeah.
To be fair, I would have
the reboot completely.
Yeah, because it was the reboot that wasn't met well because people couldn't handle. I mean, I don't know how well it was written, but people didn't like the fact that the reboot involved like it being an all-female cast, which doesn't make that much difference. If it's a well-written film, yeah. And then they had like I think I want to say Bill Murray made a cameo as well, but that one was like a.
Did it?
I think he did. I've not actually fully sat through and watched it, but people were more upset because the original Ghostbusters didn't come back. Right. Hopefully this next one's a little bit nicer for you here. Yeah. Four outsiders teleport to an alternate and dangerous universe which alters their physical forms in a shocking way. The four must learn to harness their new abilities and work together to save Earth from a former friend turned foe. Before you guess, I will give you the hint that this is a Marvel film. And it was also one of those. I
was going to say, that sounds like every generic Marvel film.
I can push you a bit further and say this was one of the Fox films. So most of the Marvel films are owned by Disney.
Wait, say that. So is this Fantastic Four?
It is Fantastic Four.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, I was hoping I could lead you there a little bit with the Fox stuff. But yeah, it is. It was Fantastic Four where there was a lot that kicked off because the casting, again, I think with more of the reboots, it tends to be, they love the original casting so much that as soon as they cast someone else, they don't give them the chance for the performance.
Yeah.
But this one
are they doing another reboot or something?
Yeah, well, Fantastic Four is, I think the rumor currently is that they're going to be joining the main, Marvel film universe. So Disney will be rebooting them again. Yeah. Because Fox also owns the X-Men franchise.
John Krasinski and Emily Blunt or something.
Ooh, that'd be interesting to see. But because Hugh Jackman finished his run of Wolverine not too long ago, so I think Marvel's taking that chance to completely redo it. So again, I'm sure when the new Wolverine is announced, people will complain that the new actor can't meet the standards that, Hugh Jackman set. That'd be an interesting one to see.
I mean, he did leave that was his iconic role.
I was going to say, it's what he's known for. Like, if you saw The Greatest Showman, that was a fantastic film. But everyone.
Oh my god, that was an amazing film.
Everyone will always, if you say his name, you'll think Wolverine first before you think anything else, I reckon.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Anyway, you're on the scoreboard there, so you can't score nothing now.
I should have aimed for one.
You've smashed that then. Right. So this one does involve the name.
Mate.
This one's film is named after the main character, so I will blank his name out, but I still don't think it's going to confuse you too much. Right, so this is again based on a cartoon series that I think was quite iconic. But anyway, Blank and the gang face their most challenging mystery ever, a plot to unleash the ghost dog Cerberus, if I'm saying that right, upon the world. As they race to stop the dog apocalypse, the gang discovers that Blank has an epic destiny greater than anyone imagined.
It's a Scooby-Doo.
It is Scooby-Doo. They just came up with a new movie called Scoob.
Did they?
Yeah, so it's one of the films.
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, it was Scoob.
Yeah, because a lot of the films at the moment, they're just like kind of digitally releasing, so people can stream them straight away and watch them. Because they can't be
Right.
sent,
Yeah.
they can't go to the cinemas at the moment. But this is like the
Yeah.
Scooby Doo universe setting up because it's owned by Hanna-Barbera, like as a company, and they own some other property. So they
Mhm.
sprinkled in like I don't know if you remember Wacky Races, um,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
but they've sprinkled in the villain from that show, and he's in that universe, and they put in like some other like Captain Caveman, and this is meant to set up like
Oh, okay.
this whole universe of films that they're going to do. And the film I think has been received pretty well,
Ah.
but then there was
Hmm.
the Dark universe where they did some like horror movies, trying to turn that into a franchise of films, and I think that got one film out and didn't really go anywhere. So you know, you don't want to say
Fair
they
enough.
got it, but with Scooby Doo, that's an iconic franchise, so it's like.
It's a classic. Come on.
But this is actually saying that this is the only film that hasn't used the original voice actor for Shaggy since the start. This is a
Seriously?
Yeah, he's still around though. He's still doing stuff. He just never got
Oh.
asked to do it.
Yeah, he's
So,
still yeah.
because he was the same,
Oh.
he played him in the live action versions, and he's voiced him in pretty much every iteration of the characters. So this is, again, if they're trying to set something new up, they've gone a different way. I even want to go as bold to say, and I'm
Oh.
just double checking my work before I state something that's wrong. I believe it
Mhm.
was voiced by oh yeah, Zac Efron. I was going to say, oh no, that's Fred. Even sorry, but Zac Efron is in that film, so you've got your link to High School Musical as
He's
well.
voicing Fred.
Yeah, yeah, they've got
Oh, mad.
solid cast. Anyway, moving on to our next
Oh.
one. A group of high school a group of high school students who are infused. That makes a different film altogether. Who are infused with unique
Yeah.
superpowers, harness their power in order to save the world. Uh, So it's a bit more vague, this one. So what I'll say is it's again based on a TV series. It was a live action show, and they've still got like iterations of
Right.
the TV show going on now. And at one point, it was one of the biggest seller of toys over the US and probably in the UK as well for a while.
A
Uh,
bunch of high school students get superpowers to save the world.
they all have a color theme, so they've got like the same sort of suit, but they had a color theme. If that gives you a little hint. So like the leader was in red, but they had like different people. Each guy got a different color uniform.
Is this a Power Rangers?
It is Power Rangers.
Oh.
Because Power
Fair
Rangers, I
enough.
mean,
That's such a random, like a vague description
yeah,
for
well, this is
Power Rangers. Fair
that's
enough.
that's the
Kudos.
whole thing with this show. I find the worst descriptions. Like I find reviews that are you find reviews that are done by reviewers. So it's like they reviewed the review and they literally say like, "Are you sure you're talking about this film?" Like, I don't know. You're talking about this film from your description. But no, that
Oh
film.
dear.
There's a series on Netflix, and it's like the toys that made us, and it's like a documentary series talking about like how they've made the whole properties and watching. Actually, there was a whole thing dedicated to Power Rangers, saying that like the series has actually gone on for like I think from the 80s to modern day now. They're still making series. The toys sell like crazy, and
Yeah.
what they do is like every 2 or 3 years they'll start a new TV series of it up because they can just sell new toys like that. Um, so
Oh,
it's like a little empire they've got there of like
smart. Fair enough.
never, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you think as long as they make the uniform look a little bit different, all they've got to do is stick each color in a different, each character in a different color version of that, and that's a new set of 7 toys they can
Yeah,
sell,
basically.
and then just make some crazy looking
Yeah.
villains, and you're sorted there. It's a formula that works for them. But they did try
Yeah.
making a film at one
It's kept
point.
them going so far.
They made a film at one point that didn't
Oh
really
yeah.
take off, but it was like, again, a different version of the characters, so it sold products, and that's what they want at the end of the day. Um,
Right.
Anyway, this
Yeah.
one, I will say this one, you've sort of, I think it was just before our generation, so if you've seen it, you'll kind of
Oh gosh.
catch on to this. But I wouldn't be surprised if you
Okay.
don't recognize this one. Uh, a group,
Right.
uh, Blank Fanatic, with some help from his 2 human friends, must regroup Blank Gang to stop an oil Mongol from taking down one of their precious, life-longing treasures. Um, so this is a bit more of a vaguey one, but I'll give you the hint that
Yeah.
it's got the thing they're trying to save is a theater, and the show was the TV show focused on the fact they were doing this show in the theater every week, and they were all done by the main characters were all puppets. I'll throw you those little hints. But they took that franchise and made it into a film. And I think actually they got a sequel as well.
I have no idea.
Fair enough. It was the Muppets, which is yes, yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Well, the Muppets are a bit of an
okay,
older franchise, and like
enough.
in the first one, I believe they have this.
Oh yeah, you did say. Yeah, I forgot you said they're all puppets. I just completely missed that.
But then, like in the film, they have some live action. They have some actual actors in there as well, because they had the guy who played Marshall in How I Met Your Mother, and like he's got like the whole film focuses around like this new Muppet character who's too shy, and he lives with the Marshall character, and he's trying to like get over his fears of going out on his own. And then there's this weird intersegment part where they actually like start singing a song, and then the Muppet character gets the guy who plays Sheldon as his real life counterpart, and then the actual actor has a Muppet version of himself appear. Saying that, I think we actually had some friends of ours who actually got to meet the actor who played Marshall though at one point. I think they met him in Philly.
New York or Washington or something.
Oh yeah, it might have been.
Was it Philly?
Oh, I'm still convinced I should have met him, but apparently he's a really friendly guy. Like they got pictures with him and everything, and he seemed really friendly. For just, you've got to think a lot of these actors just have people randomly coming up to them asking for pictures, but apparently he's a really chilled out dude. But I would have loved a chance to meet him. All right, well, going back to our superhero themed questions, because apparently that's one of the moves I was in when I was writing this one. I shan't say the name of the character because you'll instantly guess it.
That seems to be working, so we'll go with that.
Blank balances his life as an ordinary high school student in Queens with his superhero alter ego Blank, and finds himself on the trail of a new menacing prowling the skies of New York City. If you don't get this, I'm just going to laugh at you, to be honest.
Wait, could you say the beginning again?
So Blank balances his life as an ordinary high school student in Queens with his superhero alter ego Blank, and finds menaces on the trail of a new menace. Finds himself on the trail of a new menace, prowling the skies of New York City. I will say this is one of the biggest Marvel heroes. Oh, it was close. It was Spider-Man.
I think it said Bannister. I thought you started off with Bannister, so I was like, what, Bruce Bannister?
No, Black.
Is that his name?
Oh no, it's
What was the first word you said?
Blank. I wasn't saying his name. I can see though. You know what? As soon as you say it, yeah, I can hear you. As soon as you said that, I was like, oh no. Oh, but no, it was Spider-Man: Homecoming. But I can see where you went there. Although I didn't know he was a high school student. To be fair.
I see.
But obviously, because we're talking about
yeah, that's why I was like, this doesn't really make sense.
It's like it's the new reboot for the Hulk film that you never saw. They really want to make him young and hip with the kids.
Whoops.
But because we're talking about the whole rebooting stuff, Spider-Man's like the most over-satirized, like rebooted character because, you know.
Oh yeah.
Sony had him, and then Sony rebooted him, and then he's coming to Marvel. They have to reboot that.
Yeah.
Like it's all kind of crazy. And then there's talks that he's going to get rebooted again. Honestly, with him, you don't know that franchise.
Oh, yeah. And you got the Into the Spider-Verse as well.
Oh, that was amazing. I mean, the soundtrack to that alone was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And we actually had John, we were talking last week about it. He was saying, like, they actually animate the characters slightly differently. So, because obviously they're from different universes, they animate, like, the main universe characters at a certain frames per second. And, like, the guy from the other universe is animated a little bit faster. So the idea is that he's meant to seem more like easily moving using his powers. And then Miles, who's still learning, is meant to come off as more clunky. But by the end of the film, his frame rates are increased enough to make him transition to that smoother, like, animation style, which gives the impression that like he's got more powers. And I sat down and watched the film again, and you can see it like if you're paying attention, like his character himself like has more sort of like, you'll see it more as like sort of stopping frames, but it gives you the idea that like he's not quite as like slim moving in terms of like there's more of a pause when he takes a step, like to
efficient.
Where the Spider-Man who comes from the other universe, like his animation is done at such a frame that like whenever he moves, he's got quite a lot of energy behind it.
It's like rapid and
which is great because but the whole film, you know, like we talk about like superhero films being overdone, but you think a film like that, it gives you that whole experience of like you're actually seeing the growth of the character, not because they've said, "Oh, I've learned my lesson now, I'm gonna save the world." It's like you're seeing it through like kind of the body language, which a lot of the films can't do, because it's like live action films, you know, it's a bit hard to say like, oh, he was kind of couldn't move as much, but like in an animation film where it's based on the movement of characters, you really see that sort of thing, and no film has done that again. But I am very excited because Spider-Verse 2 wasn't out, so you know if they haven't done an amazing soundtrack like they did in the first one, it's already got me sold. Like I think, you know, I had Sunflower stuck in my head for at least 2 months. It was such a strong film. But anyway, moving on to our next question before I start geeking out over Spider-Man. An ancient Egyptian princess is awakened from her crypt beneath the desert, bringing with her malevolence growth over millennia. I can't say that word. Over a decade, I'm going to say, but more than a decade because I can't say millennia. And terrors that defy human comprehension. So this is based on a horror film, like one of the classic horror monsters, and that's all I'll say.
Yeah, this is not going on.
So an ancient Egyptian princess is. I'll focus on that.
Cleopatra.
But it's based off a horror character. Just don't say Dracula. Whatever you say, Dracula's not an Egyptian.
The only Egyptian princess I can think of is Cleopatra.
Oh, you're close. You're on the right theme, but it was the Mummy.
Tomb. Wasn't there a movie? Was it robbing Cleopatra's tomb?
There was the older ones, yes, but the new film was referred to as the Mummy, like because that was like, you know, like in the 70s, 60s, they started like having a franchise of horror films that they made. So it was like, you know, they had the Werewolf Man, they had Dracula, you have the Mummy, and they were all kind of like, and because we were talking about earlier, they wanted to make a dark universe, and this was like going to be the starting point. The Mummy was like the introduction, because then they were going to have like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde film, the Dracula film, an Invisible Man film. Yeah, so it's going to be like, you know, like how the Marvel universe has all these interconnected films. This was going to be the dark universe's beginning, and then the Mummy flopped. Had Tom Cruise in it though, but the film flopped, and then they kind of just abandoned the idea of ever making a franchise. But it's interesting. I mean, I think I'll be generous because you knew the older film. I'll be generous. I'll give you that one because I think you actually know the more unknown name. It's like if someone says to me, "Oh, well, Dracula is Nosferatu," that's the same sort of thing there. Like they have some hidden names. So the fact that you knew the older film, I'll give you that.
I appreciate that.
Honestly, it's
basic history knowledge.
Well, no, but like honestly, no one, like if you say like what's the original Dracula film, most people wouldn't go to Nosferatu. Like most people don't know that. Like that's actually kind of what inspired Dracula, and there's a whole like series of lawsuits that followed, like in the early years when it was originally written, because there's like considered a plagiarism of what was real and what wasn't. But anyway, moving on from our horror world, and it is the last of our horror questions. When a young system engineer blows the whistle on a dangerous technology, and this is the name of the film, so I'll just say blank, are called into action, putting their lives on the lines to protect us all. I'll say that the main cast of this is 3 girls, and they have a boss who they go to find out what their missions are. It was a TV series originally, and it just consisted of the 3 female...
Powerpuff Girls.
Oh, I can see where you went there. It was Charlie's Angels. I can see it though. I like your logic though. You took the three
I don't know
female
why.
lead, and you took a boss, which would have been like
Yeah,
their
I
dad.
focus on that.
But no, I mean,
Yeah,
to be fair,
like system into okay.
Powerpuff Girls did get
Huh?
rebooted quite recently. So that became its
I
own
feel like
series.
it did, yeah.
But yeah, they tried to bring back
Ah,
Charlie's Angels, and I think they even like there was a couple of attempts of bringing films back in like the early like beginning of the 2000s, and I think then they tried one in the 2010s, and it just didn't stick. But I think I didn't actually see that one myself, but I suppose there's only so much you can write about, like a spy film that's new. Um,
yeah,
but anyway,
true.
on our last question, I mean, to be fair, at this point, you have scored, and I'll double check my points before I say the wrong number to you. You are on 5. You are on 5 points at the moment, so you could join up with everyone else and come on to 6. So you could join the
Oh
majority.
dear.
This is your chance. This is you. You can join the majority
Okay,
right now and just go into
we'll
that.
try.
Um, but we'll give this a go anyway. Right. So when a kingpin threatens New York, a group of mutated, I'm going to say blank warriors, because it's part of their name, must emerge from the shadows to protect their home.
Wait,
And,
say that again. Say the beginning again, sorry.
so when a kingpin threatens New York City, a group of mutated, the next word is going to be blank, warriors must emerge from the shadows to protect their home.
Is this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
It is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
I just had to blank out the turtles there for you. But yeah, because
Yeah, I was gonna say.
that film came out in the early 2010s, and then they actually got a sequel.
Yeah.
But it did feel. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw like images of the redesigned film versions, but they were quite like more leaning to the mutated, heavy, bulky side. Um,
Ah.
but I mean, to be fair, if you'd have been asking me for some sort of hint, I would have gone and said like, Vanilla Ice did do a song for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and so I would have said he did a
Okay.
song because that was the 80s Go Turtles Go Turtles Go. That I think was like in Turtles 2. But
Ah.
again, they've been like talking about the Power Rangers. Turtles have been around since like I think the 80s or 70s, and they just keep
It's
getting
been around for
rebooted.
ages, yeah.
Well,
To be fair, yeah.
that's why I found like I did this genre of quiz for the quiz. It was like a lot of these sort of, especially like more for children sort of series, have stuck around for so long actually, and they just occasionally reboot the characters or change things up anyway a little bit. But anyway, you
Mhm.
have gone to 6 points, so you stayed at majority there. You were aiming just for 5 at one point, but you've stayed in the majority. Um,
Thank you.
which I'd take that. I mean, again, out of the 4 people, only 3 have scored 6 and only 1 scored 9. So you've done solid there. And I think this quiz was a bit harsher as well because
Yeah, I will gladly take that.
a lot of these films were like more kind of less known films or films that didn't do as well because a lot of the reboot films kind of get appalling reviews and kind of just disappear because people don't tend to like when things are slightly
That's fair
changed.
enough.
Um,
Yeah, it's fair.
but yeah, like I say, you're stuck in the majority there, which is fantastic. I thought when I did the film quiz, I thought some of these questions are really mean. So you've done well there to stick it out. Um,
Thanks, mate.
and I regret. No, I can appreciate somebody who knows like the original sort of mummy movies and kind of where the inspirations came from for
Oh
those.
god.
But anyway,
That is probably the only one I know, trust me.
anyway, so this is sort of leading to the end of the show here. So we've got like all our social media stuff, which is in the description below, but you can search us up on Instagram and Facebook as Excellent News Delivery, and all that sort of stuff comes up. So we post stuff about like stuff coming up. We've got a couple other projects in the work at the moment, so we'll be posting more on the sort of social media pages to find out about that. And you can see sort of the editing process because I'll occasionally, when I'm bored, I'll just share some of those stuff on there and just show us like what's been happening in the next few weeks, and you can find out who's going to be on the show because I'll post about that sort of stuff. But I don't think haven't got any sort of social media stuff you want to promote at the moment, is there? Before I cut you off from that.
No, I'm very out of the social media world.
But
I just, I still write letters and post them to people. It's that old.
there you go. Well, that's what we should have done. That'll be the next thing. We'll start posting addresses. We won't do that. We won't do that. That ends badly. That ends very badly.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
but anyway,
Bad idea.
thank you so much for being on the show today. And you can leave your head held
No,
high.
it's brilliant. Thank you for having me.
You've scored to the majority point, so you can leave your head held high there. But
Yes, so I am on average. I'm good.
Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. See ya.